Llévate más de lo que esperas todos los días con el nuevo McValue en McDonald's. Ahora puedes comprar uno y sumarle otro por $1. Así que cuando tu equipo favorito enfrente a sus rivales, enfrenta tus antojos con $5 Meal Deals. Y si estás corriendo para alcanzar el desayuno, corre a la app para llevarte ofertas antes del cutoff. Tú decides, y con McValue, tu decisión siempre rinde más. Precios y participación pueden variar. BOGO $1 válido para un producto de igual o menor valor. Debe estar registrado en Rewards para ofertas en el app.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my podcast, Esme's Country Life. Oh my goodness, it's been a little while since I've last recorded a podcast episode. The last couple of ones have been pre-filmed because I've been away for 2 whole weeks, which for me is a very long time. So I have so much to update you on. So I'm going to be telling you all about my travels, my adventures that I've been on, some of the wildlife that I've seen, because I have been in the Seychelles, which is, incredible. It was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime trip. And of course, there are some embarrassing stories, there was some chaos, and like with every travel trip, there are a few things that ended up going not quite right. They went a little bit wrong. But before we begin, I have a few updates to tell you. But first, I just want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of the podcast, Redpost. Redpost is an equestrian and country store based in the UK, but they also ship all over the world. And at the moment, they have a sale on. They have a sale on Fairfax and Favour, attire, and bits and bobs. They also have a sale on the Lemure Autumn Winter collection. So if there are any colours from that you want to get, because normally, once they're gone, they're gone. And also, something that I can definitely tell you now I'm back from my travels is that we still have a lot of winter left. So if you need to update any of your winter attire, now is the time while the sale is on. So go and check it out at redpostequestrian.co.uk. Also, a little announcement that I'm going to say, I will quickly wrap this up because I know you guys want to hear about all the adventures I've been on, but I do need to just tell you that I'm going to be at the Blenheim Palace International Horse Trials this year, which I'm so excited for. More information is on my website, thisisme.com, if you want to find out about my meet and greet there, because, as always, I love seeing you guys. It's always so much fun. And also, it is the European Championships at Blenheim this year, so it's going to be a big one. If you've never been before, this year is the year to go. So anyway, yes, very, very exciting. But let's get into my travels, let's get into my stories, because, yeah, I have been on an adventure. First thing that I just want to say is that I just want to say thank you to everybody who made my trip incredible. You guys know who you are. I've made lots of friends along the way. But you might be like, Esme, pretty random. Why have you gone to the Seychelles for 2 weeks? Which I've kind of mentioned a little bit previously in episodes, but I'm going to tell you the full story. Now, number one, obviously, who doesn't want to go to the Seychelles? It's a beautiful country, especially this time of year, where in England it's winter, it's cold, it's January, and in the Seychelles, it is lovely and warm. So this was a trip I could not turn down. But also, one of the other reasons why I went out there is because my boyfriend, who on the podcast, his little nickname is Batman. Anyway, if you know, you know. So anyway, Batman very kindly invited me to the Seychelles, where he has been working over the winter. So it's been a tough time. We've been long distance for a little while. So it was really lovely to meet up with him and everything. But I was kindly invited out there. So number one, this trip was a lot more affordable because when I was staying with him on the island that he's working at, I had to not pay anything for accommodation, for food, that kind of thing. So basically, a lot of my trip was for free, which very, very grateful. I think I might actually end up making this into like a 2-part story because I have been away for 2 weeks, and normally on the podcast, each week is kind of like an update of what I've been up to on that week. And I have a lot to update you on, a lot to chat about. Honestly, the whole time I was doing my trip, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to... Especially when things go wrong. I feel like when things go wrong in my life now, I don't go, oh no, something's gone wrong in my life. It's so bad. The first thing I think of, this is going to be a great story for the podcast. I don't know, maybe that's like a positive way of thinking of it. Anyway, things go wrong. Always ends up being a funny story. So yeah, first off, number one, obviously I was very excited to go out there, but also I was very nervous. And I know when I'm nervous about things because I get stress dreams, and I did have a little stress dream about me missing my flight or getting stuck in a foreign country somewhere, because I realised that even though I'm very, very lucky that I've travelled a lot with my job, like I know how airports work, I know what to do, I've taken a flight once on my own. Last year was actually the first year that I ever took public transport on my own, which you guys, if you're regular listeners, would have heard about. I'm a regular user of public transport, but I always have a friend that comes with me because I live in the middle of nowhere. Public transport, there just isn't much where I live. So anyway, I'd have flown once on my own, but that was going home. And that was like a within Europe flight, so it didn't seem that scary. It was only like a few hours. But this flight, this was going out of the continent. This was literally going to the other side of the world. I had to get a connecting flight as well, because something that I didn't realise is that if you're flying from the UK to the Seychelles, there are no direct flights. You have to get a connecting flight. So I was like, oh my goodness, I haven't taken that many connecting flights in my life. So I was like, oh, the stress of like then figuring out when you're planning your flights. Sorry, this is not like a big problem to have. This is a very lovely problem to have. Being stressed out about trying to get to your beautiful holiday destination. So sorry, this is not very relatable, but I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, so if I have a layover, if I have a transfer with my flight, how long do I want to stay in that country? Like how many hours? If I do it for too long, then I'm just going to be hanging about in this airport for ages, bored. But also if it's too short, if my flight is delayed, I might miss my next flight and then I might be stranded. So luckily, 3 hours I think I gave myself, which my first flight was a little bit delayed, but it was all good. So my flight was from the UK to my transfer kind of country that I was in for a few hours was Doha, which when I tell you, if you have ever been to Doha airport before, oh my goodness, it is huge. It is the biggest airport I have been in my entire life, I'm pretty sure. It is huge. So first minor stress that I had, because it was such a big airport. Normally when you go to airports, you have the big board, it has all the flights on, it has the time where it says go to gate at whatever time your time is, and it also says what gate to go to. Now when I first arrived, like you normally do at the airport, the first thing you go and do is look at the flight times and everything. And I was looking on there, and then I was like, oh my gosh. At first, I thought, oh no, my dyslexia is really struggling right now, because you know how all the flight times are on there and then they like change after a few seconds because there are just so many flights. And I was looking, and I probably was standing there for about 15 minutes, and then my heart started beating a bit faster. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't find my flight. So I was like there messaging my dad, who I don't know what time it was in the morning. It was like 1 a.m. for him. I was like, I can't find my flight. I can't find my gate. Does my flight just not exist? So I had a mini panic, and I was like, Esme, calm down. You've got like 3 hours until your flight. You're going to be okay. And then I realised, I used my brain. I looked on the flight board and I realised, oh, wait a second, unlike my normal, usual, small local airport, where it has all of the flights and it gives you a time of when you need to check the board again to see what gate you go to, this one just had all of the flights in the next kind of, I'd say maybe even 45 minutes, not even like an hour, and it would just say, go to gate. There was no, your gate information is going to be here at a certain time. And then I was like, phew, the reason why my flight isn't on the board is because it's not for another 3 hours. So anyway, went and had a chill, calmed myself down. I was very sweaty. It might be a bit TMI, but number one, I just landed in a hot country, and your gal is not used to the heat. She is used to, literally, before I flew out, we had snow in England, which is normally quite rare. Where we are in England, we normally don't get much snow, being on the coast. So we were like, whoa. Number one, my body was not used to that cold, and then it kind of just flipped and went to a really hot country. So yeah, the mix of that and being slightly stressed out, but it was fine. It was all good. Although I was messaging my dad being like, I still can't find it on the board, and it was like getting closer and closer to my flight time. So luckily my dad was like going through all my emails. It was literally like my little personal assistant. I was so grateful for him for staying up in the middle of the night and helping me. And he was like, oh, I think I found it here. This I think is your gate, and I still couldn't find it on the board. And then anyway, I found it on the board in the end. And when it was on the board, it literally said go to gate. And as I said before, Doha Airport is huge. So it was like a 20-minute walk just to get to my gate, and I am a speed walker. All of my friends will tell you I am that person where you're walking in a group and I'll be chatting away and I'll be for some reason, I'm just always at the front when we're on a walk. Even if I don't know where I'm going, I have to like keep being like, no, you're the direction person. You tell me where I'm going. Anyway, so I'll be that person that'll be walking along and then I'll like be talking and then I'll ask a question and I turn around and my friend's like 20 meters behind me and I'm like, oopsies. Anyway, so you best believe I speed walked to my gate. I am that person where when maps tells you it's going to be 20 minutes, I get there in 10. Like, I am the speed walker. So luckily I got there all in time. And this made my blood. I'm not normally an angry person, but this made my blood boil because, okay, I'm going to calm down. Sorry. So anyway, when I arrived at my gate, when you're at an airport, there's sort of like a hierarchy. There's the business class first people that get to go on the plane first, and then it's like, I don't know, economy plus, and then economy and that kind of thing. But obviously, that when it comes to, you know, getting on the plane and stuff, there are people that maybe need a bit more assistance. Maybe they have a disability, or there's very young children, or somebody who's very elderly and frail. So when I got to the gate, there were people queued up going in. And this guy arrived at the same time as me. And they were boarding all of the people that needed extra assistance to get onto the plane first, that maybe was slower for whatever reason. And this guy, who was in business class, obviously, because he was shouting about it, he pushed in front and was like, I'm business class, I need to like go in first. And the lady was like, no, these people need extra assistance going onto the plane, they go on first. And he was like,
the last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
I paid all this money and you're not even letting me on the plane first, blah, 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 blah. And I was just there, mouth open, jaw dropped. And I was like, I can't believe there are human beings like you in this world. I was stunned. I was shocked. So anyway, there we go. So yeah, that was one of my stories from the trip where I was just like, oh my gosh, stunned, jaw on the floor. So anyway, made it on my plane, all good. I did get there when, people were like starting to board. So a little bit of me was like, oh my goodness, did I get here late? No, it's all good. There are lots of people here. It is all fine. So anyway, got on my flight. Managed to sleep for quite a lot of it. As you guys know, my secret talent is sleeping on planes, on cars. So I was relatively well rested. It wasn't too bad. And then after my second flight, I arrived in the Seychelles. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful, stunning, and when I arrived at the airport, it was so sweet. Batman was there. He had a bouquet of flowers for me. He had a little sign. You know how, when you get picked up by a transfer at the airport, it has like your name on. So he wrote Esme Higgs on it and he was holding it up, and it was so sweet, so sweet. I was so excited to see him again, especially after so long, 3 months, I want to say, which is wild. So anyway, that was lovely. And then, for the first part of this podcast, I'm going to be chatting. So I actually stayed on 2 different islands. The first one was Mahe, which is kind of like the main island of the Seychelles. And then the second one was the one that Batman was working on. First off, Mahe, we stayed in like a really cute, I can't remember if it was like an Airbnb or a booking.com. Basically, we were staying in a really nice area, which kind of felt like a residential area. And I'm pretty sure we were staying in some random guy's like back garden. But it was so lovely. It was so nice. We had like a little room. It had aircon, which is like the main thing because you guys know I am not great with the heat. So it had aircon. It had a little like swimming pool that I'm pretty sure like the guy used as well. Like they had like lots of little like rooms there, but ours was like a little cabiny kind of thing in the garden. But it was really, really nice. We also had like a little outdoor kitchen. So one thing I love about being in hot countries or when it's summer in the UK is eating breakfast outside. I don't know what it is, but if you live in a country where it's warm enough to eat breakfast outside at the moment, do it. It is revolutionary. I feel like it changes your whole day. You know how they say like making your bed in the morning, it starts off the day well, you've completed a task, your life feels good when you do something good. That for me is having breakfast outside instead of, like scrolling on your phone in bed, eating your breakfast. That's probably not a very good way to start your day. But eating breakfast outside when the sun is shining, it's nice and warm, you can hear the birds tweeting. I don't know what it is, but that it just brings me so much peace. It makes me so happy. So to be able to like sit outside and have our breakfast, and it was so cute because when we were eating our breakfast outside, our like kind of toast and things, there were so many cute little birds that would come and say hello. So I'm going to try and remember the best I can, my bird breeds, which hopefully I will make Batman proud because he is an ecologist. He is a nature guy. That's what he's doing out there, literally saving the turtles. So anyway, my favourite bird breeds from the Seychelles, number 1 is a Madagascan foddy. If you don't know what that looks like, search it up. They are the brightest red birds I've seen in my life. They look like somebody has dropped it in like red hot Cheetos. I know we don't have red hot Cheetos in the UK, but in America I know that they're a big thing. Honestly, that bird looks like it's radioactive. It is so bright. And then also one of my other favourite birds from the Seychelles is called a zebra dove. So if you could imagine like a dove but smaller, and it's almost stripy and it has kind of blue around its eyes. They are so pretty. They are so cute. There was one that came to our breakfast table every single morning and it reminded me of my past chicken called Snickers, who was a Moran, so it was kind of freckly like that as well. And this little zebra dove was so cute. I might have fed it some of my toast. Maybe that's why it came back every morning. But anyway, so one thing that, in the Seychelles that was different for me is that they have a lot of geckos, they have a lot of kind of lizards and creatures, and which I absolutely love. I mean, we do have lizards in the UK, but they're not as common. Anyway, so we were eating our breakfast and I saw this like white thing kind of float down from the ceiling and it landed on my breakfast plate, and I was looking at it and I was like, Batman, what is this and why has it just landed on my plate? And he was like, let's have a look at that. Do you know what it was? It was a bit of lizard skin where a lizard had shed its skin and it had landed on my breakfast plate. And I was like, well, welcome to the Seychelles. So I thought that was very funny. Luckily, I had eaten all of my toast at this point, so it was all good. I mean, I am a breakfast person. I have to have my breakfast function in the morning. So even if it had landed next to my toast, I probably would have still eaten it, Waste not, want not. Anyway, sorry if that's really gross. I don't know, if it didn't land on the actual toast. And anyway, I looked up and there was a lizard with its like half skin on, half skin off. And I was like, oh, hi little guy. You've just, this welcome to the Seychelles. Anyway, so that was a little culture shock number 1, having lizard skin falling in your breakfast. So yeah, that one. Also, other things that are culture shocks to the Seychelles, which I will probably tell you lots over the next couple of episodes. But first thing, that I was warned before I came, because if you guys know my dad, I am my father's daughter, and my dad, he has multiple cups of coffee a day. He is a coffee fiend. He loves his coffee. I'm normally a 2 cups of coffee kind of gal. 1 in the morning. I don't have it first thing in the morning because it's probably not very good for you to have caffeine as you've just woken up. I normally have it around 9 o'clock, more like 8 o'clock when I arrive at work. And then I have a second one after lunch to keep me going over the day. So I was on a caffeine, hiatus. I had no caffeine basically the whole time I was out there for 2 reasons. Number 1, coffee in the Seychelles is really expensive. There are some things in the Seychelles that are extortionately priced, and that's because they have to ship a lot of things in. And another thing that's also expensive is milk, which is like the 2 ingredients for a coffee, and that's because there are no cows in the Seychelles, so all of their milk is normally UHT, so it's been, heated up. Long life milk, there we go. I don't know if every country, because I have an international audience, calls it UHT milk, but long life milk. So it often comes from places like South Africa or that kind of thing. And apparently they were saying that they don't call it cow's milk because a lot of the milk actually has buffalo milk in as well. So there's a little fun fact for you. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've been told. So yes, so no milk. Well, there was milk, but it's, long life milk. That was very expensive. And no coffee. So as I came over to the Seychelles, I brought Batman some home comforts. I brought him some chocolate that he really wanted. Tony's chocolate. Random, but anyway, that's his favourite chocolate. I brought him some jam from home as well to have for his breakfast. You know, taste of home. I also brought some tea bags with me because one thing, I used to make fun of my mum whenever we would go on family holidays when I was a kid for bringing British tea bags with her. I was like, that is so sad. You're on your holidays, go and eat the local food. Like, obviously we did do that, but one home comfort that my mum always brought with her was some tea bags. I have become that person. It's so embarrassing to say I've become that person because when I went to the Seychelles, I brought tea bags with me, even though I had the long life milk, because I don't know what it is. I just love a cup of tea. I feel like I never liked tea when I was younger. It's literally only since I became an adult that I've enjoyed tea and coffee. But you know what? There is something about being in a hot country, just having a little sit down, having a nice cup of tea. It's lovely. Anyway, so I brought tea bags with me as well. And I brought a few like shirts and clothes for him and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that was pretty much everything that I brought along with me for Batman. So first day, we arrived, he picked me up from the airport and we went straight to a beach, which again was a little bit of a, whoa, I'm used to snow. And suddenly I'm literally on a tropical beach that looks like it's from a postcard, which was wild. So obviously I was there. My go-to travel clothes, if you want to know, are a pair of white linen trousers, because number one, they are so comfy. Number two, they're trousers, so they are long, so they don't look too weird in the UK when you're traveling from an airport, but also they're great for hot countries as well. And because I don't know, I don't want to travel in shorts. That doesn't feel comfortable. That I like all of my my skin to be covered when I'm touching like a public transport seat or like plane seat or that kind of thing. I don't know. If not, it feels a bit weird. Maybe that's just me. And then also I have a white cardigan that I often wear, which obviously has buttons because number one, I normally get really cold on planes. I don't know if anybody else is like this, but planes are freezing. They are so cold. So I have like a cardigan that I can like do up and snuggle into when it's cold on the plane when I'm trying to sleep. But then also when you get to a hot country, you can open it up and a little bit of breeze come through and then also it's quite easy to, you know, tie around your shoulders or tie around your waist if you get warm. So there we go. That is my airport fit for you all. So I arrived at this beach in my airport outfit, luckily in my rucksack, because I didn't want to, you know, have to open up my case and go through everything, because our Airbnb kind of booking.com, I can't remember what it's called, the place that we were staying, our room wasn't ready yet until the afternoon, like most places. So in my little rucksack, I have my emergency things. So I always have a clear kind of pencil case shaped wash bag with like toothbrush, toothpaste, especially if I was, you know, had almost like a whole day flight, and then I was meeting my boyfriend afterwards. I wanted to make sure I brushed my teeth, you know. I also have like my skincare and that kind of thing. I also always have a spare pair of clothes because you never know when you're going to lose your case. That is one thing that I worry about. I always put like a little Apple Air tag in my case and also in my rucksack just in case anything gets lost. I am that person. I also had a bikini, a little mini fold up towel, and yeah, a spare pair of clothes in my rucksack. So when we got to the beach, Batman could hold up a towel and I could quickly put my bikini on. Also a lot of sun cream because you guys know I am a pale person. I have my special vampire newborn baby SPF 500 sun cream that is waterproof, lasts all day, even though I'll apply it to myself like 12 times in a day because your gal burns easily. I also have a funny sunburn story that I'll probably be telling in part 2. But anyway, so look out for that one. So yeah, we arrived at the beach, got all my sun cream on, and it was just lovely. I had a sleep on the beach because obviously I hadn't had that much sleep because it was kind of like a night flight. I think my flight from the UK was 2 p.m. I think I took off, and then I arrived in the Seychelles at 6 a.m. Seychelles time. So for me in the UK, that was literally like the middle of the night because there is a 4-hour difference at the moment with daylight savings and that kind of thing. So yeah, jet lag was jet lagging, but actually it wasn't too bad because I had a big nap on the beach. And then when we got to our little place that we were staying, I had a big nap there. And then for our first night, we had a chilled one. We went for a walk along the kind of like local beach, and obviously because Batman has been staying in the Seychelles for a long time, he's managed to talk to lots of local people and lots of people who have done like day visits to Mahe or been to Mahe quite a lot, the main island. And he was prepared. This guy, I felt very lucky. I literally just turned up. All I had to do was turn up. He'd planned the whole trip, the whole holiday. So he was like, okay, we're going to go to this on this day, this on this day. We're going to go to this restaurant. Obviously he like checked with me like, oh, does this sound okay? Like, he didn't want to be like the dictator, like, this is what you're doing. But it was very nice that how I just rocked up. He planned everything for me. Obviously he'd chatted to lots of people, asked recommendations. So on our first night, we went to a local food truck. Now you might be thinking, like, I don't know, some people will get me when I say this. Some people will be like, a local food truck, that sounds kind of sketchy. But when I put it into this way, if there is a food truck that is an independent food truck that is doing well, and you know they're making a business out of it, they're making it run, this must be a good food truck. I don't understand why some people, they're like, oh no, you have, like, the big chains, they're better. No. Big chains, they're doing all right. They're not gonna, flop. They've got their safety blanket. They can cut corners when they want to. If it is a local business and they are making a living out of it, like they are doing well, they're making a business of it, it must be good, So anyway, we went to this little food truck with local food, and it was so good. And then it was such like a chillaxed evening where we just sat on the beach, watched the sunset, ate our little food out of our cardboard boxes, and it was so nice. So that was my first day in the Seychelles. And then obviously the next morning we had the gecko or lizard skin in my breakfast. And then the day after that, we had a busy day, let me tell you, because the first place we went to was a beach. Now, one little thing that I will say, this is all on Mahe that we found, is that there are a few little tourist traps, but like anywhere that tourists go, there are going to be tourist traps. There are tourist traps in the UK. Goodness, there are a lot where I'm like, goodness, that is extortionate. How are people paying for that? But anyway, so we went to this beach that Batman had been to before, and we were walking along, and we were about to enter this beach. So there's like a little bit of a walk through the jungly, rainforesty, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to say jungle. Is it kind of a jungle? Yeah. Anyway, so we walked through there to this beach where there was this huge cove, and all of the water was really, really shallow. And we had a beautiful walk in the end. But when we arrived at the beach, there were two guys sitting there with a table and a card machine. And Batman was like, what is going on here? Because obviously he'd been to this beach before. There weren't guys sitting there before. And he was like, this is a little strange. Anyway, walks on in. We walk on past, and they were like, oh, you need to pay to go on the beach. And then Batman was like, I've been to this beach before, and we haven't had to pay. And they were like, oh, no, you only have to pay if you want to do snorkeling. And we were like, well, we're not doing snorkeling, we're just going for a walk. So anyway, walked on by, and we were like, oh, God, if we hadn't stood up for ourselves, we would have got ripped off by some dudes. Anyway, so we walked around this cove, and we were trying to find a kind of pathway that kind of went up, but apparently it was overgrown. But it didn't really matter because we walked around this whole cove, and what was so nice was because the water was so shallow, we just kind of walked in the sea with our kind of shoes off. And when I tell you, my feet have never been so smooth in their entire life, because I've done so much kind of beach walking, barefoot walking, that kind of thing. One thing I will say, the Seychelles kind of, it depends on the beach that you go to, and it depends. Some sand is so soft it feels like talcum powder, and some sand that you go to is a little bit more rough, and that is because I found out through my ecology friends that a lot of the sand is actually made up of like crushed up coral. And because coral is very high in calcium, little chemistry lesson for you all, it has calcium ions, and that means that it is charged. So basically, the sand out there, it is very sticky. It will stick to you. I thought sand in the UK was sticky, but this sand, literally, if you're at all like a tiny bit damp, it sticks to you. So yeah, my skin has never been so well exfoliated in my life from all of my beach days. Like, I feel like a newborn baby. My skin is so soft. Forget going to a spa treatment, just roll around in the sand. Anyway, so there were lots of cute little things that we saw in our little cove walk. We saw lots of hermit crabs. There are these crabs called ghost crabs, which sound like a little bit freaky, but it's because they're kind of almost translucent / white. So they look like, they kind of look ghostly as they kind of scuttle along the sand. Obviously, they're very well camouflaged. There are some that are so small that they're honestly like maybe the size of like a bottle cap, but with like legs that stick out. Obviously, there are big ones, but there are little ones like that. And honestly, you'll just be like sitting there and you'll be like, oh, there's something moving there out the corner of your eye. It freaks you out a little bit. Anyway, obviously, I am a country girl. I am not scared of crabs. I'm not scared of insects. I do have an insect story coming later on, which will probably be in part 2. I keep mentioning part 2, but as I said before, there is so much to update you on. So we did a little beach walk, and then after that, we went to a waterfall, which we did a big hike. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what it is. Maybe, you know, growing up with overprotective parents, I was like, oh my gosh, freshwater swimming, you know, I don't want to get any bugs from this. I don't want to get ill. I did talk to Batman. He had swum in this waterfall before. All of his friends had swum in it before multiple times. Obviously, it was a waterfall, kind of lake, river, pond. So it was all fresh water that was flowing through. So I was like, okay, I'll go in. And it was so much fun, especially after a hike, because it was so hot and sweaty that we, to go into the waterfall, it was so cool. And because it was fresh running water as well, because the water in the sea in the Seychelles is so warm, it is literally like a bath. Normally when you go into the sea, like even in kind of like warmer countries, maybe this is just me, like in Spain or that kind of thing, if you swim in the sea there's like a little bit of a chill when you first walk in the sea. Literally, it is like warm running tap water. The sea out there is so warm. So to actually swim in the waterfall where it had running water, which was a little bit chillier, it was so nice. One thing I would say also, as soon as we arrived at the car park to go to this waterfall, there were a lot of guys that were like, oh, come on our boat, we'll take you out here. Or there were also some, which, you know, I respect the hustle, you know, earn your dollar, guys. But we were like, we're not falling for any tourist traps. So when we arrived at the waterfall kind of car park, there are there's the kind of entrance that a lot of people were walking through, which I'm pretty sure might have been somebody's driveway, and they were charging people to get to the waterfall because they were walking on their land or on their driveway, when obviously Batman, he had the local knowledge, he knew where to go. So we went on this kind of like mangrove hike, and as we were kind of walking there, they were like, oh, you're going to the waterfall, it's this way, and we're like, no, we're just looking at the mangroves. We're just going to the mangroves. So anyway, we walked through the mangroves, didn't have to pay because we weren't walking on someone's driveway. And to be fair, the mangrove walk was really nice because it was kind of like a boardwalk. And there was one bit where I'm pretty sure there had been a fire, where there was like a gap in the boards with like a meter drop, and then there was just like a little plank going over. So that bit was a little bit sketchy. It felt like I was in like Total Wipeout, where one wrong move and I would end up in the swamp. But no, it was the waterfall hike, would recommend. That was really, really good fun. We also did lots of other hikes as well. We did one which I think it was about, what's it called? Sorry, I'm going to have to check my phone because I want to pronounce it right. I want to say, because anybody who's Seychellois who is watching, I don't want to butcher it. We went to Mont Blanc, that was it, which I've got the stats here if you guys want to know the stats. It's 1.6 kilometers, and I'm pretty sure the like height or how far up we climbed was 630 meters. And it also, I've got brackets on here on my little podcast notes, it says hard, because that's because on the little sign that it said at the bottom of the hill, or bottom of it was a mountain basically, it was like, this is a hard hike. It is for hardcore people. So you best believe when I got to the top, I was very proud of myself. But anyway, the best way I can describe this hike, you know, at the gym, there is the stair escalator thingy. It was like doing that, but for 1.6 kilometers. It was high up. It was just constantly steps. Some steps you basically had to climb. I mean, the view at the top was incredible. We had some friends that we met up with that is like Batman's BFF, and they did that hike the day after us, but it was a rainy, cloudy day. When they got to the top, there was no view, and I felt so bad. So even though it was a really hot day, Batman was like, Ez, are you ready for the challenge? Like, we might have rainy days after this, because when I went to the Seychelles, January, apparently Batman has been told lots of different things. Some people have told him January's a great time to go. Some people told him January's a rubbish time to go because it's the rainy season, or it's hopefully near, I think February is kind of when the rainy season ends. So it's like near the end of the rainy season. We were actually really lucky with the weather that it only really rained at nighttime for us. So we actually did a few night swims. We did one night swim in the sea where we were just bobbing along. So lovely, so romantic. We were looking at the stars, and we saw the International Space Station go across as well, because my grandpa, he is very into like stars, has a telescope, he goes to like lectures about the stars and the sky and planets and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, that one's Jupiter. Like, I felt so cool. I was like showing all the stars and all the planets and that kind of thing. And we saw the International Space Station go across. So he was there telling me what all the wildlife was. And I was like, well, I can tell you about the stars. Anyway, so that was really cool. And as we were bobbing along in the water at night, I kind of was like, am I imagining something? Or am I being like eaten by something? And he was like, oh, that might be the plankton. And I was like, what do you mean that might be the plankton? He was like, yeah, the plankton. And I was like, I know plankton is a thing. I know that he's a character in SpongeBob. Like, that's people are gonna laugh at me. I know that plankton is a real thing. Don't get me wrong. I know that he's also a character in SpongeBob, but I know plankton is an actual thing, you know, in the water. But I didn't know that plankton was also a little terror in real life as well as in SpongeBob. I mean, he was going out to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula, but I didn't know he was going to terrorize me in my real life. So anyway, I was bobbing along, and the plankton, they don't bite you. They don't kind of sting you. It's just as they kind of bump into you, it just, I don't know, maybe I'm really sensitive. And anyway, we were just bobbing along, looking at the sky, and I was like, oh my gosh, a plankton's just bumped into my bum cheeks. Oh no, it's like gone for my back. And I was like, quick, can you just scratch my back? Like, here, I can't reach it. So anyway, that's one thing that I didn't know, is that plankton in real life, it's not bad. It wasn't like, you know, being bitten by a fly or zapped by an electric fence or anything like that. But it was just enough that I was like, oh, I can feel something, you know, like something's there. So anyway, there we go. There's a little fun fact. Plankton can be a bit annoying. So there we go. And then there was one night where we went for a night swim, and it was raining, but it was actually really fun swimming in the rain. But like, I don't really mind the rain that much in a tropical country. One thing that I would say, always bring a raincoat with you in the Seychelles. Maybe it was just me because I was in the rainy time, but you never know when you're gonna get caught out by rain. It felt like being at home, because one minute it's beautiful sunshine, and then the next it's tipping it down with rain. So yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that we did. We also went to a rum distillery, which I found very interesting because it was in like a really, really old house from, I want to say, the 1700s, maybe even the 1600s, like a long, long time ago. So I love like history stuff. So I found it so fascinating going around the old house, hearing about the kind of history of the Seychelles. So yeah, that was basically the rest of the time. We went to beaches, we did lots of hikes. We did this one hike which is really fun that went like along the coastline, and we went through like a cave and it got to a beach. That was on like the rainier day, which I'd say if it's like a rainier day, go for a hike, because I love a good hike. I feel like I've come back fitter, even though I am a horse rider that, I was going to say, sometimes goes to the gym. I need to get back on my gym grind. I feel like now it's kind of end of January. Everyone who's like given up on their New Year's resolution of going to the gym has dropped out now, so it won't be as busy. That's what I'm telling myself. Anyway, I kind of feel like for me, especially with my job, my kind of new year doesn't start until I get back from my trip, because I normally have, this sounds so bad, I normally have a holiday in January, but the way that my work works with social media, I have not had a day off since August. Obviously I've had like a Saturday off or a Sunday off. But I haven't had like I don't really know if I have annual leave when you're self-employed. Does that work? No, not really. But pretty much from September till December, I have been working at least every other weekend. So I've only had like a Sunday off, which I don't want to complain. I love my job. I'm so grateful to have this job and do what I do. But your gal, she's been grinding. I've been putting in the work. I've been putting in the time. I've been doing a lot of horse shows over kind of like the winter season as well. I've done a lot of meet and greets as well. So often those have been on Saturdays or on weekends. So it's worked out well that basically while Batman has been away, I've been putting in the time into my channel, into myself, feeling good. So yeah, by the time kind of January rolls around, January is such a quiet time for me and my job because everything horse-wise, everyone goes to sleep. Everyone, like a lot of people, there's like no shows. A lot of people get their horses like holiday time off. That's what I've done with my horses. Sometimes when I go away, I get my friends to ride and exercise them. But I'm like, it's January. The weather is awful. They're going to have a holiday as well. And I think when you give your horses a holiday, when they come back better, it's good for them to have, you know, a bit of a R&R. And then, so yeah, there we go. So yeah, I'm actually recording this podcast on my first, I landed on Saturday and then I've had Sunday to recover and then I'm back on Monday. First thing, it's just turned 9 o'clock because jet lag is jet lagging. I woke up at 5:30 this morning, so I might, you know what? I might just leave it like that. This is my new sleep schedule. I'm just going to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. That's definitely not going to continue, but I am an early person. I'm a morning person. But yes, so we did a lot of cool stuff. We also, one thing that I will say on Mahe, which is quite fun, is that, well, I say quite fun, there are a lot of stray dogs. And obviously, you know me, I love dogs, I love puppies, I love them. So apparently they're all very like friendly as well. So obviously I went and saw some doggies. So you're just walking along the beach and there was this one dog that just kept following us and it properly cracked me up because for some reason there were all these people, you know, like lying on the beach, sleeping on the beach on their holidays as you do. This dog, for some reason, it missed out the ladies, but every man that it walked by, it sniffed their feet. I don't know why, but I found this so funny. So there was this dog sniffing the dogs. I don't know, maybe these dudes had cheesier feet. I don't know why, but this dog was just it. That's what it was into. Anyway, I feel like dogs sniffing for feet, that's kind of cute. Anybody else, that is weird. Anyway, moving on from, I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon because we're getting to the stage of the podcast where I'm saying really weird stuff. Anyway, maybe that's the best part. Maybe it's like, you know, when you eat your dinner and you save the best bit till last. The best bit is just when I go a bit weird. Anyway, I'm gonna have a little look. I think that is everything for the only other funny story I have as well from Mahe is obviously we had a rental car. One thing that I would say is if you go to the Seychelles, you probably, if you want to travel around the island, go to all the different beaches, go to that kind of thing, you're probably going to want to hire a rental car because the taxis out there are very expensive. They also have the big blue buses of doom. That's what our friend who's Seychellois called them because apparently the bus drivers, they can be quite speedy. There are these big blue like public transport buses that our friend did not recommend. But anyway, so we hired a car. But one thing I will say, be careful when driving. This is coming from a girl who lives in the British countryside where we have narrow little roads with like no verge, just hedges. The roads in the Seychelles, they are narrow, they are very windy. One thing that I did notice is that there aren't many kind of, what do you call them, fences or barriers that stop you from going off a cliff edge. There is sometimes just a sheer drop, or there's a lot of like storm drainage kind of drains. So if you're just, you know, driving along, if you go off the road, there's like a meter drop and you're just like land in like a little ditch kind of thing. So anyway, I do have a story. Luckily everyone was fine. So Batman was the driver. I was very, very grateful that he was the driver for the whole trip. I was like, thank you. I am jet lagged and tired. Thank you for driving. I will be navigator. So anyway, we're driving along. We're going around this corner. There was this one car that was driving absolutely wildly. It was dangerous. Anyway, I was driving along, and around one of these like really tight hairpin corners, it literally goes into our lane. Now, Batman, he is not a fast driver. He drives like a granddad. And you know what? I'm not mad about it sometimes. I quite like it. I like to feel safe in a vehicle. So anyway, we were not going fast. This car was speeding along around this blind corner onto our side of the road. So obviously, like any person, slammed on the brakes, went to the side. So he basically had the choice of two lesser evils. We either were gonna be ended up hit by this other car, or we would end up a little bit off the road. So we went for the less peril, which was going a little bit off the road, and we were like, because there was a little bit of a crunch, and we thought, oh no, the car is going to be scratched, the rental people are going to charge us, they're going to go, they're going to go wild on us, it's not going to be good. Anyway, we arrived at our destination, had a look, nothing, not a scratch, not anything. So all this panic of us trying to get to our destination, we're like, oh no, like the car's scratched, we're going to get in trouble. It was all good. It was, whatever it was underneath the car was still running, all was fine, but it sounded awful, and we were like, oh my goodness, and he was stressed and was like, there's literally nothing you could have done. It was better that you went slightly off the road than into the other car, because if you hit the other car, then you would have had to go through insurance, and the other person would have been angrier, even though it was their fault, because Batman's friend, Alex, he was on Mahe with his girlfriend literally like a week or two before, and they ended up in a car accident as well. So we were like, oh my gosh, we really hope that this does not happen to us. So anyway, be careful, stay safe when driving, wherever you are, think of other people. And on that note, I'm going to finish off today's podcast episode there. That is only part 1. That is literally only my trip from Monday to Friday. I haven't even told you a whole week of my trip yet. So there is going to be a part 2 about more wild adventures. The next trip is going to be on the private island. I was going to say Batman's private island. He does not own it. He is just working on it and staying on it. So I'm going to be talking all about that. I'm going to be talking about going snorkeling, giant tortoises. For those who are regular podcast listeners, there might be an Alan update as well. You have to listen and find out what happens. So if you're new or have not done so already, please subscribe to the podcast or like it or follow it or whatever podcast platform you're on. Let me know in the comments what I should do for my 100th podcast episode, because it is kind of coming up real soon. It's only 2 away, I think. So let me know. We need to do something big. And yeah, I hope you look out and enjoy listening to the next one, which will be out soon. All about my other stories from the Seychelles. Thank you again to Red Post for sponsoring the podcast, and I will see you all next time. Bye!